a Roman empress whose desire for power and pleasure led to one of the most shocking downfalls in imperial history. She was married to the emperor, mother of his children, and one of the most powerful women in Rome. But in just one night, she lost everything and died alone in a garden, hunted by her own guards. In the heart of the Roman Empire, beneath the cold marble of palaces and the endless whisper of political intrigue, she rose, Messalina, born Valeria Messalina around the year 20 AD, into a noble family with blood ties to Augustus himself. Her lineage guaranteed her status, but it was her beauty, sharp, radiant, and unrelenting, that secured her place beside the emperor. At just 14, she married Claudius, her cousin by descent and her opposite in nearly every way. He was older, cautious, a man known for his limp and his stammer. When Caligula, the unpredictable young emperor, was assassinated in 41 AD, Claudius was found hiding behind a curtain in the palace. Within hours, he was hailed as emperor, and just like that, Messalina became Augusta, Empress of Rome, in a world where women were meant to be silent shadows behind their husbands. Messalina was neither. She took full advantage of the imperial court, its pleasures, its politics, its weaknesses. Rome was a city ruled as much by the whispers of freedmen as by the decrees of senators, and Messalina understood both languages. She bore Claudius 2 children, Octavia and Britannicus. Her position was secure, her influence vast, but rumors began to bloom, fast and wild. Like ivy over stone, you hear them in the Senate halls murmured between clenched teeth. That she used the imperial bedchamber as a weapon, that she arranged the deaths of rivals, seduced senators, and forced wealthy men to sign over their estates, only to have them executed. And darker still, that by night, in disguise, she entered brothels and competed with prostitutes to see who could take more men. None of this was proven. But in ancient Rome, the line between slander and history often blurred. The historian Tacitus, writing decades later, claimed she was burning with lust. Juvenal, a satirist with a sharp tongue and sharper agenda, called her the Empress of Shame. Pliny the Elder, supposedly a man of science, repeated tales of contests and humiliation. But who was Messalina truly? A seductress, a strategist, a teenager crowned too young and handed the keys to a decaying empire? As Rome devoured itself from within, plagued by corruption, manipulation, and shifting allegiances, Messalina played the game with unmatched boldness. Her alliances with powerful freedmen like Narcissus and Pallas gave her eyes and ears in every room. But her appetite for power, real or perceived, made her dangerous. In this city, danger never sleeps long. You step into a marble atrium lit by oil lamps, each flame flickering like a tongue in the dark. Perfume clings to the air, jasmine, wine, and sweat. You hear laughter, and then silence. Somewhere across the city, a man named Gaius waits. He is ambitious, handsome, a rising star, and more than that, he is trusted by Messalina. In him, she sees opportunity, perhaps love, perhaps control, but definitely something else, something that grows far beyond reason. By the year 48, the Empress does not simply whisper Silius' name behind closed doors. She walks with him in daylight. She meets him in public. She sends servants between their houses. And then, one day, while Emperor Claudius is away inspecting grain supplies at Ostia, Messalina does the unthinkable. She marries Gaius Silius. A real ceremony, witnessed, legal in form, if not in law. with sacrifices, prayers, and vows. In the eyes of Roman custom, it is an act of betrayal so staggering that few believe it could be real. Why would the Empress risk everything? Was she plotting to replace Claudius and crown Silius in his place? Was she blinded by desire? Or did she simply think, like so many before her, that power made her untouchable? The sources disagree, but history does not forget what followed. And before we step deeper into that unraveling, we want to hear from you. Where are you listening from? Tell us in the comments below. Your voices shape this story as much as ours, because what happens next would seal her fate. The city doesn't roar, it watches. In the palaces of Rome, silence means movement. Behind every still curtain, a hand is writing. Behind every toast, a betrayal is brewing. And in the shadowed corners of the imperial household, the name Messalina becomes more than gossip. It becomes a warning. The Empress has taken another husband. To those closest to Claudius, this is not just adultery, it is treason, and not in the symbolic sense. Roman law treats such a union, performed while the emperor still lives, as an open declaration that his reign is over, and hers has begun. The man who acts first is Tiberius Claudius Narcissus, a freedman of sharp mind and cold loyalty. Narcissus has risen from slavery to become the emperor's trusted chamberlain. He knows the rhythms of court better than the senators do. And when word of the marriage reaches him, he understands at once what it means. If Claudius returns and hesitates, he may not live long enough to correct his mistake. Narcissus rides to Ostia. There, among ships and grain silos, he finds Claudius at a banquet. The emperor, as usual, is distracted by talk of logistics, imports, bread, stability. Narcissus speaks carefully, laying out the facts like scrolls on a table. Messalina has married Silius. In public, with rites, with intent. Claudius is stunned, confused. He mutters disbelief. He asks for details. He sips his wine. And then, slowly, realization sets in. Back in Rome, Gaius Silius moves with dangerous confidence. He enters the palace. He wears the emperor's colors. Some say he begins discussing reforms, appointments, plans for power. This is no longer rumor. You walk through the forum at dusk. The air is thick with anticipation. A senator you pass glances behind him before speaking. It's happening, isn't it? A change. A new order. But Rome, for all its chaos, is not yet leaderless. Claudius returns with Narcissus at his side and an armed guard. Silius is arrested immediately. No trial, no speech. He is dragged through the streets and executed before nightfall. One by one, the Empress's allies are rounded up. Men she once dined with, women who once praised her perfume. Some beg, some offer names. None are spared. Messalina, meanwhile, does not flee. She withdraws to the gardens of Lucullus, lush, secluded, fragrant with dying roses and citrus trees. Once a retreat of conquerors, now a waiting room for the condemned. She is accompanied by her mother, Lepida, who once disowned her. Now, in this hour of collapse, Lepida returns, not with forgiveness, but with a hard advice. Take your own life, she tells her daughter. Do it before they come. But Messalina cannot. Her fingers tremble on the blade. Her courage, once a weapon, fails her. She waits, and she hears them. Boots in the grass, the murmur of men who are not her guards. Not anymore. The sentence has been issued. Not by a court, but by a frightened emperor and a court eager to erase the mistake. They say the centurion stood over her, that she reached for the dagger again, hesitated, that he took it from her hand and ended it. No final words, no funeral rites, no mourning, just a silence and a crown left behind in the dirt. Rome had seen the rise of powerful women before, Livia, Agrippina, but none had fallen like this. And the question left behind is not why did she fall, it's who stood to gain when she did, because history is rarely written by the condemned. It is shaped by the ones who buried them. By morning the garden is quiet, the birds return. The blood is gone, but something remains. Not a body, Messalina was denied a public burial. Not a statue, her likenesses were shattered. What lingers is harder to erase. Fear, resentment, memory, and the quiet knowledge that even empresses can vanish without a trial. Back at the palace, Claudius eats his dinner. When a servant leans in to tell him Messalina is dead, he does not respond. He lifts his cup. The moment passes. The emperor's advisors move swiftly. A decree is issued. Damnatio memoriae, the condemnation of memory. It is one of Rome's most final punishments. Her name is scratched from monuments, her face chiseled from reliefs. Historians are instructed to write of her only with contempt, and yet they cannot look away. Tacitus will say she was monstrous. Juvenal will call her a beast. Pliny will repeat the darkest tales, like a man passing on a curse. But none of them were there in the garden. None saw her hesitate. None watched her die. You return to the place where it ended. The garden is still fragrant, wisteria, myrrh, damp stone. A single tile remains cracked, where the blade may have fallen, and beneath it all you feel the chill that never left. A silence carved by fear, not time. The violet veil she wore that night was burned, but in painting centuries later, she reappears, half shrouded, eyes lowered, always alone. Her legacy is not in stone, it is in shadow. Was she the architect of her own destruction, or the victim of men who feared what she might become? History closes its mouth, and the empire moves on, but somewhere the wind still shifts in the cypress trees, and Rome, beneath its marble skin, remembers, just not aloud.